Welcome to a quick overview how to read a scientific article. We're here in the Bay Path University portal, and we're going to the library link, which is the Hatch Library. I'm already signed in. If you were not signed in, you likely would have to enter your student name and your student password. I'm going to click Databases, and I have a psychology topic figured out that I wanted to research, so I'm going to a psychology database. And specifically, I'm going to Psych Articles. I click it, and it opens a search window. My topic is postpartum depression in adolescent mothers that I have kind of refined. So I'm going to see what I can get if I put postpartum depression, and I'm going to click search. And I have 78 articles. However, my assignment is to find a article that is scientific, and that means that they're peer-reviewed. So I'm going to say peer-reviewed, and obviously I want to read the article, so I'm going to say I want it to be a full-text article, and I probably don't want to start in 1980. I want to have something relatively recent, so I'm changing my years, and I want peer-reviewed journals. That's what my instructor tells me. And I still have quite a few articles here. Well, but I didn't want to just search postpartum depression, but I wanted to search it for adolescent mothers. And I'm going to click search. And now I just got a couple articles here. And one talks about patterns of depression among adolescent mothers. Oh, okay, so that might be something worth looking at. And I'm going to click the title, and it gives me some more information. So I'm going down to the abstract here, and I'm going to read. The negative consequences of maternal depression are a major public concern. They looked at groups of mothers, and they say that they found father support, home visiting program. Well, this sounds interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the full text and take a look at this article. Now, as I'm reading a scientific article, I don't have to read every word front to back, but I'm going to scan through here and see if there's something that interests me particularly. And I'm going to make this all bigger so I can see this. So what I'm looking at here is the abstract. And I was already interested in this article, so the first thing I'm going to start reading is the introduction. And so as I'm reading the introduction, it's helpful for me to take a look at some bits of information that are helpful for me to know. So I'm going to look here at young mothers in particular at risk for elevated prevalence of depressive symptoms. And look at that. Postpartum depression among adolescent mothers may be double that of older mothers. So what I might do is if I had this as a text, I would highlight that. So I might later go back and use this as a paraphrase. But I also want to point out to you is that even though I'm really interested in this piece of information, there is a reference that's mentioned right here that I can click to find out some more about the rates of postpartum depression, just like this article mentions here. I'm going to look a little further and take a look at this, and it tells me here in the introduction that there are long-term patterns of maternal depression, and it's always interesting when you look at the front of the paragraph. That should give you the topic, and it says here it is adolescent maternal depression tends to persist across the early years of parenting. This pattern is not uniform, meaning that there is some discontinuity, meaning that it changes over time, and that there is maybe some resilience, which indicates that there could be something that helps. And here they talk about home visiting programs, and they found that half of mothers who showed elevated symptoms in the prenatal or early postnatal period were no longer depressed 9 months later when they were part of a home visiting program. Okay, so then they give us some more information about their theoretical framework. They talk about resiliency. So if that's something that interests you, you can read about that. And here, for example, it says protective factors for these mothers are relationships that provide social support and assistance. So here they kind of then go into more how the effect of fathers, and I might look in here and I kind of sort of glance through, and then they get into the research question of the current study. So the research question here is that they're examining 3 patterns of maternal depressive symptoms, and they want to investigate whether the mother's satisfaction with the support that they were provided actually would serve as a protective factor in the remission of depression. So that's interesting. Now at this point, you might be tempted to go into the methods. I think we have enough information to think that this might be worth investigating for my topic, but I'm going to skip over all of this information here. I'm going to the discussion, because the discussion section tells you what the researchers discovered. So it says here, the result of the study supports a resiliency perspective and confirm that patterns of maternal depression are related to characteristics in the context, that means in the environment. For example, mother satisfaction with father support and home visiting program support. Well, that's very encouraging. And then they talk a little bit about the indications of this. And then they get to a part of, like, if you were ever to be asked to evaluate the study, it would give you some idea of what they feel might be the limitations of their study. So this gives you the information. And so at this point, we're saying, hey, this is pretty interesting. Now we're going back to the methods, because we wanted to say, how did they find this information out? Now, if you just write a literature review, you might not actually have to take a look at the methods. But if you are in a research method study, you might be asked about the methods. So here they tell you about the sample. That means who was in their study, the procedures that they used, how did they go about it. In this case, they collected data after 12 months and 24 months after the enrollment. It tells you how they measured their effects, and then how they analyze the data. So if I wanted to know about the data, I could probably go to the graph and take a look at the statistics, or I could also just kind of go to the results and saying, okay, what did they actually find out if I'm interested in the statistics? And it sounds here, the figure that we had above told us how the groups were created, and the analysis that they used, and the results that they had. So that's pretty much an overview of the article, with one part missing, and that is the references. Because if I find this really interesting, and you notice that we only had 2 articles that showed up on my topic, here are some references with many, many, many articles that I could follow up. So for example, earlier in the beginning of the article, and it's maybe tedious to look through everything, but I might go back to the area where I had highlighted something, where I was really interested and said young mothers in particular at risk for elevated prevalence of depressive symptoms. So if you are in this database, all you have to do is click the reference, and it takes you right to the reference page, and that was Lindhorst. Here it says article, and it even gives you a little link where you can go and see that article. So here we go, and there's that article. So this is a big help. If you find one article you like, you can kind of go through here and use the various parts of the article to help you. Now, as we're looking at this article, you can see that at this point we haven't really read the whole article. We just kind of picked and jumped through to find the areas that we like. If we're really going to use the article, you might sit down and read it, but it all depends on the assignment that you had in your class. I hope this was helpful, and I wish you good luck in your studying.